spending is like the least powerful tool you have. Like you have to do it. Like you have to be spending less than you're making, otherwise nothing works. But you can't cut back to zero. So it's like there's only so far you can go. So that's why I talk about making easy cuts to your spending in terms of like, cutting the subscriptions you're not using, doing whatever you need to do to get your everyday spending under control. But just get it to do the stuff that doesn't feel hard, because there's also this whole thing about like you need to look after the future, but you need to live for today as well. And there's some certain experiences you can only have at certain stages of life. So it's like not worth having no holidays and like missing out on going on holiday with your friends in your 20s and 30s, because you might not be able to do that in the future. So just do the stuff that's easy, and then you can flip onto the, like, rather than like cutting off back another 20%, can you find a way to earn more? Because then the upside of that is unlimited. So you've got to do the spending, but not give it more focus than it deserves.
Yeah, I remember when I was speaking to you and you were saying, I don't want to do a budget and all of this. And I was like, a budget is actually a tool where you get to decide how you live your life rather than your money just happening, And I think when people are in that early stage where they need to say, this is the life I want to live. For me, it's I want to spend time with my son, and I'll spend good money on that. And I want to spend time with my friends, and I'll spend good money on that. Anything outside of that really probably shouldn't be taking that much money out of me, because it's not important to me.
Yeah.
It's not a priority.
That's it. I've got this whole concept of mindful spending, which is basically just like think about it and like think honestly, like you have, about what makes you happy. Because I mean, lots of us have got ideas about what makes us happy. Sometimes you've got those ideas from other people. Maybe it's things that used to make us happy, but they don't anymore if we just stop to think about it. So I think no one's going to have perfectly optimized spending. Like it's just impossible. But everyone can get closer. So I'm just like, well, get closer, and then move on to something else where the upside is higher.
Yeah, like my car doesn't make me happy, and I don't really care. But I've got mates who really do, and I might judge them.
My car makes me very, but I always wanted my car since I was a little kid.
Where is it right now?
It's in the garage.
Yeah, where it's broke.
It's broken.
Like you.
I hate it.
Shouldn't have come for my hair, mate.
I know, mate. He took it personally, mate. I'm going to get it for the rest of the week.
That was a misstep.
yeah, you're getting sacked. We got a co-host slot opening up if you want it. Just put on this t-shirt that I bought for him.
Wow, don't let him off the leash now.
Yeah. Something that Tomei might need to do after his impending sacking is, the number one is getting protections in place. I think this is often not talked about enough. We did an episode on it, and people were grateful, but there was another area that were like, oh, I'm being sold insurance kind of things and the protections. Is that the kind of protection you mean? Or do you mean?
Yeah, so you've got your classic emergency fund. Like that's a bit of financial advice that's never going to be wrong. Like you've got to have that. Yeah. And insurance can be a part of that. It's not something I know so much about. And then your home, if you want it to be, because like your home is protection. But as we've talked about, it's not necessarily for everyone. But I do put that in the protection bucket rather than the this is going to make me rich bucket. But I'd put all that stuff in place, and then figure how much of that you want, and then move on from there.
Yeah, I think the thing about protections are you need them when you have nothing. And I think once you're at a point where you're 50, 60, you might not need an emergency fund, you might not need insurances, but when you're 20 and you're just starting out, a pop tire can rock you, and 2 months off work can bankrupt you. So these are the times that you probably think about those things. Yeah. Like I've got cash sat in the business now that I don't necessarily need to have an emergency fund, but then something comes up every month and I'm always like, why don't I have a couple of grand outside the business? Because now I've got it's a taxable event.
Yeah, but it's also about what makes you feel comfortable. And like if you look at what billionaires do with their money, they're all completely different. So like even if you go down for billion, just look at people who've just like got tens of millions. So like in any reasonable world, they'd never have to work again. Some of them have like millions of pounds of cash on hand, even though they know it's losing money to inflation. They don't care that it's losing money to inflation because it makes them feel good to know that that's there. And so you could look at that and go, well, that's wrong, but it's not wrong if it makes you happy, right?
I run super lean on the bank account. It to the point sometimes where when I'm about to go to a shop, I have to check that I've got enough money to pay for it.
I do that all the time, but because if I leave money in my bank account, stop it. Look, you're not getting a lift in my car for the rest of the year now.
Your car ain't here, mate. Your car is broken.
It will be fine. temporary little hiccup. But yeah, like if I leave money in my bank account, like on payday, Damo taught me this though. On payday, I move all my money out of my current account, because if I leave it there within a week, I'm just going to spend it. I'll go on a night out and like I'll spend 100 quid tonight, and then in the morning I'll be like, how did I spend 500 quid? So like, I'll walk through Westfield and someone will be like, do you want to buy this? And I'll be like, well, I can, so why not?
Yeah.
So now I just like invest it as soon as I get paid, pay my rent, invest it, just spread it out, and then like don't have any in the current. So like when I check Revolut, every time I go in the shop, I'm like, all right, let me move a bit of money over so I don't decline at the counter. But I think that's
People find that stressful, but I find it kind of like, it just keeps me, because I know about myself that I'm reckless, and if I have £10,000 in my bank account, I spend differently. I'm more frivolous.
Definitely.
And it adds up. And I'm not at the point where I can just completely not care, so.
No. That's what's so important. Like knowing yourself, knowing what you like and knowing what makes you happy is the foundation of all of this, which is really hard. Like that's harder than just like following a rule about like where to put your money. Knowing yourself is super hard, but it's if you don't get that right, if you don't know what makes you happy, if you don't know like what you're like, how you behave, then you can't get it right. So it's that self-knowledge.
Yeah, being really intentional about it, and maybe even sitting down and going, at the start of the year, these are the things that I value. These are the things in my day-to-day life that make me happy.
Yeah.
And these are the things that are worth spending money on. And also being honest with yourself that if you're a nutter on a night out, take £100 in cash and that's it. Do you know what I mean? Leave your cards at home. Or
yeah, Damien are going out after this, and I've got cash on me because I'm like, if I bring my card, it's going to get out of control.
Yeah.
Or Damien can pay anyway.
It's a business expense. So it's okay.
This was a clip from our interview with Rob Dix about myths about money. For the full episode, click right here.